Man, guys, this video has been a long time coming. For those that follow along on the channel, you may, if you caught our community post that we put out with these doors, there's a whole backstory behind this. If you're new to the channel, we'll fill you in. But our doors are finally in. I'm just doing the finishing touches on this front door as far as oiling it up and getting it all prepped and ready to go. I'm just happy that it's in. I'm happy that they're here finally. But let's start this video back from the beginning. You're gonna see some footage here that I filmed probably about 4 months ago, this past summer, when we started to prep these openings for the door. So let's start there and we'll get into the doors actually arriving, and I'll fill you guys in on all the details and everything that's happened up to this point. Hey guys, I just received a phone call that our doors are gonna be delivered tomorrow, and I'm super excited about that because we'll officially be dried in at that point. What I'm not excited about is these openings. The concrete is so rough. I don't think I can set these doors on top of this concrete as is, so I'm gonna have to do some prep work, and that's what we're gonna do today, is to get this all set and ready to go, so when the doors show up tomorrow, we can get right into setting these things. Let me show you what I'm dealing with. So this is the walk-through door going out to the garage. Will be covered by a roof, and we'll make this kind of like a breezeway opening. When we set this door last year, it was relatively easy because the concrete was pretty level and it was nice and smooth on the top, because that's our garage floor. So that door wasn't an issue, but this door, you can see my concrete wall, the top of the wall, is pretty rough. And I don't think just gooping a bunch of caulking underneath the door is gonna do it. So we need to prep this opening, get this thing in a little better shape. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do here is take my angle grinder here with this masonry wheel and just try to knock these high points off, and then we'll go back over with this concrete patch and just kind of do a nice smooth trout off finish here. So disclaimer, I probably should be wearing a dust mask. We're gonna try this once and see how the wind carries this dust. All right, now that we got everything cleaned off, we're gonna trowel on our patch. This stuff is already pre-mixed, which is nice. It's kind of like when you're doing tile work and it's you're doing the grouting or the mortar, putting the mortar on the floor. Pre-mixed stuff is nice. And that should do it. I'm gonna clean my tools off here real quick, and I'll come back and give you a shot of this so you can see what it looks like close up. There's a look at the finished product. I can tell the concrete wall's not perfectly level. It's got a little bit of a wave to it, but that'll help me get a nice seal underneath, and if we have to, we can use a little bit of shimming to get that door where we want. But that is much better than what we had, so we'll see if it works. Did the same thing with our front door opening. That looks pretty good. There's a couple of different grinding wheels that you can use for this part of the project if you want to do something similar. The one I have is kind of the cheap version. You can also buy an expensive grinding wheel that's like a cup, and I think that's more for finishing concrete work if it's going to show. Since this isn't going to show, I didn't need to go super expensive. I think this was like $5-6 maybe for this grinding wheel, and it seemed to get the job done. After you get done with this, really want to make sure you get it clean so the patch has something to adhere to. And this patch stuff sets up pretty quick, so you gotta keep going with it. And I found that it's kind of hard to use this stuff to level the surface because it's so wavy. I tried to do the best I could leveling it, but the main goal was to get a nice smooth finish. That way when I put my silicone underneath the door, it gives me a good water barrier. I don't think any water is going to get to this door. It would have to blow really, really hard. We're 12 feet or so from the sides and 17 feet deep, so it's not going to see much water, but I want to get this as best as I can nonetheless. So patch worked out really well. I'm sure there's many different ways to do this. This is just a method or technique that I used for this project. So here's where the drama begins. So the doors were dropped off and I gave the lumber company a check so they would offload the doors. It was paid on delivery. We put them in the garage, and before the lumber company left, I happened to notice that the door threshold was 2 inches narrower than the rest of the door frame. That posed a problem because it would expose the concrete foundation in front of the door, giving water an opportunity to land on that concrete and run back up underneath the door. And now here's where things really get interesting. So the lumber company didn't load the doors back up. They left them with me. They sat in my garage for a month while the manufacturer tried to decide how they were going to fix the doors. The first solution was to ship me new parts and have me fix the door. I declined that. After a month, the lumber company came back. They picked the doors up and sent them back to the manufacturer, where they worked on them for 2 months. So we're 3 months into this process, and we finally get the doors back. The thresholds are made the same width as the rest of the door frame, which I knew they could do, and it was supposed to be that way. This is how the threshold should look. It should come all the way out to the edge of your jamb. For one, it looks good because I don't have any exposed concrete here. And two, water is going to have a hard time when it hits this and runs off, running back a ½ inch here, running back up underneath the door and getting underneath and inside on the floor. That's how it should be. While I didn't get any video of the door install itself, I do want to show you guys in the next part of this video how we installed the doors as we get the oiling done and get the finishing touches put on both the front and back door. I'm going to be honest with you guys, the concrete wasn't exactly perfectly level underneath. It had a little bit of wave to it. When you put the level on it, it looked good, which is what I wanted, because that makes setting the doors really, really easy. This front door wasn't too awful bad. And a big shout out to Sean, if you're watching. Thanks for helping me set these doors, and Mira, and my wife as well. It took 4 of us to get these doors in. They're super heavy and they're big. They're 8 foot tall. So it was quite the project, and we got it in. This front door, the top portion was a little tight. I had the lumber company get me the rough opening sizes. When I did the framing on this, the doors weren't here. So they gave me the measurements to make the rough opening. And unfortunately for these doors, they only gave me a 1/4 inch at the top. So we had to do a little bit of shaving on the top, which I didn't get film of, but we got this door in. It set in pretty easy after we got the top shaved to where we needed it to be, with the bottom being level. It made the sides plumb, and we really didn't have to do hardly any adjustments at all to get the door to open and close properly. So let me show you some of the details on these wood doors with side lights. I don't know if all wood doors are this way, but I'll show you how we got it fastened, because I got to pop these side lights back out and get all of the wood oiled underneath here. So let's show you that. So there's where we ended up. On the hinged side, which is the most important side. So the hinge side is pretty square, and then when you come to this side, we're pretty close here too. Actually looks really good. That's really all there is to these side lights. They're just a couple of screws around the outside that hold them in, and I'll show you how I fastened this door frame. So you can see here, I put the screws in behind here where the side light goes in, so all of our screws are hidden. Don't have to put screws in your frame and then putty them over. I think that looks tacky. So that's how I did it. We're gonna do the same with this other side here. Take it out. You can kind of see the difference here. I need to get this portion here oiled up and get it put back in. If you're new to the channel, I want to put a little plug in for this oil that I'm using for the doors. It's the same oil we used for the timbers, and man, I love this stuff. It's Heritage Natural Finish exterior grade oil, and it's not a stain. It goes on like a stain, but you put the first coat on, let it soak into the wood. Once it dries, I put the second coat on. Then I leave it set for a little bit, like a week maybe, and that stuff starts to get hard inside the wood, and it puts almost like a polyurethane finish on it. Once you get to that point, I do one more coat, a third coat on it, and it seems to really take care of the timbers. I really like the way the porches looked, and we didn't want this door to be painted or too extravagant and take away from the timbers. I don't want people to look at just the front door and not see the wood timbers on the porches, so we decided to go with a Douglas fir door to match. That's it for this door. We have 2 coats of oil on it, and putting it in the opening is pretty easy. Fastening the jamb to the framing behind the side lights when you pop those out is pretty easy. It's a nice way to hide your screws so you don't have any exposed screws anywhere on the jamb, which is really nice. The only other thing I like to do is to check to make sure I have set the door good, is to open the door and see, does it stay where it's supposed to? And it does there. It stays there. Weather stripping's kind of holding it there, but when I open this slightly, there you go. So you can see how the door just kind of works its way open gradually. Ends up being about halfway open here. At least that's what it did last time. So it's not set absolutely perfect, but I'm pretty happy with it for now. Again, this summer we'll check it. We're not rubbing right now. We have a little bit of a gap all the way around the door. So I'm pretty happy with that, but we'll check when it gets hot out this summer and humid and this wood tries to expand if we start rubbing anywhere around the frame. If we do, we'll make some adjustments. The only thing I can really do is run these screws in a little further that hold this side light in to pull this piece of wood over. But for right now, we're pretty good. Nice solid fit. And what I really like about these 8-foot doors is the triple latching system. We have 1, 2, 3 strike plates. And we'll jump in here and you can see the mechanism here that runs up the door. And we go to close this. You can see we have a nice, it's a close fit. We're not rubbing yet, but we're close. So we'll see what happens this summer with things. We may need to do a little bit of an adjustment, but for right now, that looks pretty good. I'm happy with it. We're gonna move on and get to this back door next. What I've done here, guys, is I have my door adjusted so that everything closes nice. The big thing is when these 2 doors close, that they don't rub. So we have a nice even gap all the way down. And the doors actually stay closed, and I don't have any of them. The side that's supposed to be locked isn't even locked. So this works out really well. Now, the one thing I will say with these double doors, I got them to close nice. They stay open where they need to be. So if you look at the level here, this is where the door, in order for it to work nice, we had to adjust, and we're off just a little bit. You can see the bubble there. And this other side, we're off just a little bit here too. But the big thing is the doors close nice. We're off just slightly there as well. But the doors close nice and we have a good reveal. Nothing's rubbing. So what we've done is I have all my screws here underneath where the weather stripping should be, all the way down. I got 4 on each side. So I'm going to come back to the back side here, and I'm just going to shim until everything is snug, and then leave it go as is. And that'll be it for these doors. Then we can get these things stained. And I do have to, for the locking mechanism on the secondary side, I got to get that set. So we need to do that, drill some holes, but we'll do that on another day. Guys, there's a little look at what our rear doors are gonna look like. That's one coat of the oil. I have another coat I'm gonna probably put on today after this has a chance to soak in, and then probably next week do that last third coat, and that'll give us a good finish and protect our doors. I have yet to do the inside and the edges of the doors, so I have a lot of work yet to do today. So I'm gonna get to it. But that's all I have for you guys. We'll see you on the next video.